I've just finished listening to Vampire Weekend, which is the very first episode of the very first season of the 13th Doctor Adventures as a Big Finish audio production, and I'm here to tell you what I thought about it, without spoilers first of all, because I figure there may be a few people wondering, like, should I pick this up? How is it? And for some context, this is my first Big Finish purchase. I've listened to Big Finish audio dramas before, but they've always been ones that have been made available for free via Spotify or BBC Sounds, and this is my first time actually deciding to invest my own personal money in a Big Finish audio. So I guess I can talk about that experience too, because, I do think that the whole purchasing a digital download and listening to it process could be a little bit more modernized. It is a little archaic, in my opinion. Not problematic, but archaic to buy the digital download and to have to download it and unpack it and then listen to it with Windows Media Player as like separate track files and all that. That might have been the norm 20 years ago, but honestly I was just here thinking like, if I wanted to listen to this on my phone, I would probably have to find a way to transfer the files to my phone. I wish Big Finish offered some kind of native streaming audio player so that when you buy the audio you can then just press the play button on the website or in an app. There might be an app, I haven't looked, but to then just listen to it without needing to actually go and download the files and play them yourself. I know it sounds like a pointless little whinge that's not really a problem, but it did take me off guard to be like, oh, we're doing it this way, we're doing it the old way, okay. And that's as well as, not instead of, by the way. I think it's great that we do have the ability to download the files and own them. But anyway, the 13th Doctor Adventures, I was so excited when they announced this because I have a big soft spot for the 13th Doctor, and I think that is something I would impress upon anyone curious about, like, I hated the 13th Doctor's era, does this audio fix that? Kinda. It depends what you hated about it. We have a more traditional Doctor single companion relationship here. We also have, I would argue, better writing for the 13th Doctor's character in that she's not constantly bewildered and surprised by events. She feels like there are moments when she is surprised by the villain doing a villain thing, as with any Doctor story, but unlike in her actual series, she feels a little bit more in control of the situation and the master of knowledge like she should be. But if you hated the 13th Doctor's era because you just didn't vibe with the vibes, you just didn't like the 13th Doctor as a character because of, I don't know, let's assume not prejudicial reasons. Yeah, I don't know if this story is going to fix that for you, but if you did watch through the 13th Doctor's era and you thought there was something there that just wasn't quite being found, I don't know, it's one story so far, but I think that, yeah, there's lots of potential here, and perhaps you will enjoy this story. Something I really like about this story is it feels a bit more, I was going to say traditional Doctor Who, but this show's been around since the 1960s. It feels a bit more traditional New Who in that we are exploring Yaz's kind of domestic life, which we do get snaps of in the show for sure, but this is a story, like, set around Yaz's personal life. She's spending a weekend away with her friends, and she's kind of like, her friends they have this kind of rift between them because Yaz has been traveling for so long and she hasn't said anything to any of her friends about where she's been, and it's been a long time, so there's that kind of natural rift that's developed. Like, she was expecting to be the bridesmaid to her friend for her friend's wedding, but she was passed over for someone else, and that kind of plays into it. Sorry, I guess I should say maid of honor? Yeah, maid of honor. I know how weddings work. And as a backdrop for, I guess, the setting for an episode, and then obviously introducing the Doctor into the fray and having her interact with all of Yaz's friends, that was pretty fun. I really enjoyed that. And then, of course, we're dealing with, it's not a spoiler because it's in the title, we're dealing with vampires. And by the way, it was in the title, but I didn't really pay attention to the title of this episode, so it did kind of take me by surprise. There's some really fun lore around the vampire of the episode and what they are, and I think at this point I'm gonna cut off and start talking about spoilers, because I do now want to talk about the particulars of the episode. So if you are just here for a non-spoiler look, do I want to pick this episode up? I hope I have been of some use to you. Feel free to ask me questions in the comments and I'll get back to you. But yeah, I loved hearing of this lore, and I'm pretty sure it's new lore. I looked it up, I couldn't find anything about it, of the Time Lord's ancient enemy being the Bloodlords, and the Bloodlords being these different types of vampires, and the one that we are dealing with in today's episode is a vampire of truth, a vampire that kind of injects people with truth serum when it bites them, and then feeds off of the energy of people being honest, and the way that's used within the narrative to explore the different characters and the relationship between the Doctor and Yaz after this era when Graham and Ryan have left is really fun. It was also kind of a bit of a slasher where people were being picked off one by one, and a bit of a whodunit as well, of like who's secretly the vampire. It's not the biggest twist in the world. I figured out, you know, with mysteries like this, my brain always jumps to what is the most absurd answer possible? What is the least likely answer possible? Well, that would be the dog. It's the dog. Although I was entertaining the idea that it could have been Dylan for a while there. Slight bit of unfortunateness with the dog's name, by the way. So Gina's mum calls the dog Boo Boo as kind of a loving nickname, and it's kind of meant to be funny because it shows how much she adores this dog, right? Unfortunately, my cat, who passed away a few months ago, was also lovingly referred to by the nickname of Boo Boo, so that kind of smote me in the heart a bit when she screamed Boo Boo when the dog apparently melted. There's a fun little tidbit for you. But speaking of pet naming, the 13th Doctor picking up a couple of chickens as anti-vampire deterrents and calling them Ian and Barbara as like her own little private joke. Oh my god, that was, whoever came up with that idea, I mean, I assume the writer, bravo to you, Tim Foley. That brought such a big smile to my face. And when Barbara got taken out by the vampire and then Ian got justice for Barbara and the Doctor was like, yes, justice for Barbara. It was so fun to spend time with 13 and Yaz again. They felt very authentically written. As I mentioned, the Doctor feels like maybe like 10 to 20% more capable than she did in the TV series, which is a plus. But I think when you pick up one of these audios, what you want, what you're aiming for, is more adventures that feel like they are of the same quality as the TV adventures, and that you can kind of think of and remember in your mind as adventures on the same par, if you like, as the TV adventures. Because I think that's the selling point of Big Finish audio. Like, yes, there's Doctor Who books out there and there's the occasional Doctor Who comic out there, but this is getting the actors in to reprise the roles of their characters. And while it's an audio adventure, I think it's still almost just as good as having new episodes a lot of the time. And yeah, I think from a full spoiler perspective and from a I really liked the 13th Doctor's era in many ways perspective, with lots of asterisks, of course, yes, I would highly recommend this. I mean, me personally, as an audiobook listener, I do find it difficult to be okay with spending £10 on a 1 hour long adventure when I could be spending like £7 on a 60-hour long Brandon Sanderson epic. But ultimately, this is the only way we're going to get these adventures, and I kind of have to be okay with that. It's, instead of assigning a monetary value across different audio stories at like a set rate, what I need to be okay with is being like, yeah, I was okay spending a tenner to have a fun hour with a new 13th Doctor adventure this month, sure. I don't have to then go, but I could have spent it on this and this and this and this. Yeah, I regret nothing. I had a great time. This was lovely, and I'm looking forward to further adventures in coming months. I also plan, if you are wondering, on picking up the Ninth Doctor and Rose adventures. I think it's just Ninth Doctor adventures, but you know what I mean, the ones with Billy Piper in that are coming up, I think next month. I think they rotate monthly, right? We have a 13th Doctor adventure, then a 9th, then a 13th, then a 9th, alongside all the other stuff Big Finish are doing. I'm planning on keeping up with those two series monthly and making these videos about each one, so stick around. And that's probably going to be the primary Doctor Who content on this channel while I figure out what the hell I'm doing with the classic series, because I'm sorry, I have nothing against Patrick Troughton's Doctor, really, but every time I go to watch his first adventure. I just can't. I don't know why. I'm just so bored. Maybe I just need to swallow my pride and jump ahead to John Pertwee, because I think from that era on is the one I'm most interested in watching. I don't know why I was okay with watching through the first Doctor's adventures. I mean, okay, it took me 3 years. I was also kind of bored there with certain episodes anyway. I don't know why I do this to myself. Anyway, those are personal ruminations that need not be part of this video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let me know what you thought about it as well, if you like. Beyond that, I'll catch you in whatever I make next.